Hi everyone, this is my submission for Azure Developer Stories. In this submission, I'm going to submit my application based on Python on Azure. So for this particular application, we have developed an application for generating certificate of participation for the events that we hold as a community. So we have been, conducting various trainings, various free trainings for our community. And one of the common asks from our participants were to have a certificate of participation. And we were looking at some of the existing solutions. Most of the solutions we were looking at were paid options and also having the subscription based model. So we thought of why don't we have our own application? And when we thought of having our own application, what can be better than Azure? So we developed an application based on Azure on this architecture, where we have a Microsoft form where our participant will be submitting their information on the final session. So they will be going through some of the quiz that are that they need to kind of answer, and then along with that they will provide their name and email address. Now on submission of this user form, there will be a trigger to a logic app. This logic app gets the information such as name and email address from the user, from the submission of the form, and then it triggers the search gen Azure function, which is a Azure function developed based on Python. So this Python application has been configured to take the name and email address, manipulate an existing template, image template, add the name into it, and then create a blob storage on a Azure Storage, and then respond back to the Logic app with the blob URL. Then Logic app gets the certificate downloaded and then attach it with an email and send back to the user that is on the same email address that he has provided into the submission. So this way, it every time a new user, a new participant submits his, final examination submission, final, quiz submission to be precise, then it automatically generates a certificate of participation for the candidate, for the participant, and then it sends back to the user within few seconds. So this is the whole architecture that we have built. Now this particular application is hosted on Azure repo. As you can see in the same repo, we have this Azure function code. And if we go to the Azure function code, this is the main function file that we have. As you can see, some of the libraries that we are using to work with this particular application. One of the main library in action here is this one, Pillow module of Python, which helps you to work with image objects, and then you can manipulate, you can add text and all those kind of things. So, and as you know, since we are working with Azure Function, so this is the library for Azure Function, and since we are going to upload this certificate that is generated on the blob, Azure Storage blob, we are using Azure Storage Python SDK for that. Now in this application, we are getting parameters like such as name and email, and then based on the as soon as we have got the parameter name and email, we are going inside and we are opening this image using that image.open, and then we are doing some location based manipulation there so that we can put the text properly, the text for name. So we are getting the name value, and then we are putting it accordingly using a particular font, and then we are generating a PDF file out of it. Now the certificate template that we are opening is there in the repo. As you can see, this is a certificate template that we have. There is no name inside it. That's what we are going to put using the Azure function, and then we will be generating a PDF file out using this, and then we are uploading it using this function to the blob storage. And then this is the function that we have here. We are using blob connection string, and then we are connecting to it, and then we are first checking if the same certificate already exists. So sometime it may happen that student is submitting again. Then if it exists, then it will return back the blob URL. If it doesn't, then it will upload and then it will return back the blob URL. Now this function return we are providing as a response to the user. to the caller, and in our case it is logic app. So this is the Azure function code that we have written. Now this Azure function is hosted in this particular resource group. As you can see, along with your Azure function, we have this logic app. So before going into the Azure function, let's go back to the logic app and see end-to-end flow. So if we go here and if we look at the designer, you will see that we are accepting information from Microsoft Form, getting the details from it, such as name and other things. And then we are triggering the Azure function using, providing the parameters such as email address and name. And then we are downloading that particular, the whatever it, as you know, we are getting a URL, that is certificate URL, blob URL. We are downloading that, and then we are further sending an email attaching that particular PDF into it. And then this is the end-to-end flow using the logic app. The same resource group is holding Azure function. The Azure function is like we can of course, apart from this logic app, we can call this Azure function separately as well, provided the parameter that it asks, we are providing it. We can dev test and all those things we can do in the Azure function. Now, instead of calling this function from here, what we will do is we will look at this submission form. This is the submission form that we are going to provide to the participants. Now, this is simple one right now. In actual submission, there will be a couple of questions related to the technology they are going for it. So we will be asking few questions such as, related to that particular training. Apart from that, the essential information that is needed to generate the certificate participation is name and email address. Name will be printed on the certificate, and email address will be used to send the certificate back to the user. Now let's go ahead and submit that information here. So I'm going to submit my information here using this email ID. So I'm providing my email ID here. So I have provided my email ID and name here. As soon as I provide the email ID and name, it should call this logic app. So before I submit, I will just go ahead and look at the logic app execution. Last time it happened 3.8. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to submit. So it has submitted. Now if I come here and if I refresh, it should have a running instance. And so it has already completed, it seems like. So 321, as you can see, it has just completed. So if I go here, and as you can see, it just completed, within seconds, got the information, just triggered the application, and then I'm getting an email of my certificate. And if I open, I have my certificate with my name. And if I go there, I can open the certificate, and here is my name that is added by Azure function. The same certificate has been uploaded on the Azure Storage blob, just in case someone needs to access the certificate in future. If I go here in the storage, if I go to the container, and this is the container where my certificates are stored, and as you can see, it just got generated, and this is the certificate that we are providing to the participant. So this is the end-to-end flow of this application using microservices architecture we are following. So this is the way we are deploying the application, and this is the Azure Function app, which is generating the end-to-end certificate based on the submission of user. And this is the architecture of our application using Python on Azure. Thank you so much for your watching.